pianist, a violinist, and a composer. Professionally, I mostly just do piano and composition now. I haven't played the violin publicly in quite a number of years. But it's hard to say which one engages me the most. It's funny, when I was first starting, when I was very, very young as a child, they felt the same. Playing and writing felt very much like similar impulses. Then I got a little older, and then they started feeling very separate. They started feeling like separate parts of my brain. And now they're starting to converge again. They're starting to meet again. So it's hard to say. I think they scratch different itches in my brain. Performing allows me to tap into a part of me that demands like instant response and spontaneity. Because in a performance, no matter how organized you are in your vision of a work, your interpretation of a work, you're still on stage and you're still breathing in flesh and blood, and you have to be prepared for anything that happens on stage. And writing is different. Writing is much more about organizing things and putting things into a logical kind of sequence, if you want to think of it that way. But they're very linked for me. I mean, I think about writing as a performer, and I think about performing like a writer. I started composing pretty much when I started playing. I started playing the piano at about 18 months of age, and shortly after, I think I started trying to improvise my own melodies and my own sort of musical phrases. I have often compared it to discovering a vocabulary of any language for the first time, and realizing that somehow these units can be brought together and somehow some kind of meaning results. So in the early days, I think it was just trying to piece together what musical logic even was. And then I started formal training when I was about 5 years old. I think writing is the very intense way of getting inside of your own personal way of listening and understanding music, but maybe primarily listening. I think that it's an attempt at translating what happens inside of you, and I think that's a real expressive thrill. I've worked with electronics in different capacities for a long time. I still remember when I first started using it in my work that I was, constructing and making for publics. It felt very scary because I had grown up making electronic music for myself, and I had grown up, as a teenager trying to teach myself how to produce and mix. And when I started using electronics in my work that I was really, really presenting it under my name for people, it was really scary. It's still scary. It's still very scary, because I think when I work with other idioms and when I work with electronics, I still come back to a place where I'm just doing it for myself, and it's just a really personal thing, and it's an exciting, fun, low pressure thing that I do on the side. That's still alive in me, but now it's more serious. Now I'm making it more, I have higher standards for what I'm doing. Working with electronics has totally changed my approach to music. Just at the sonic level, working with electronics made my ear listen totally differently, and made my ear more sensitive to certain things. And so as a pianist now, I think I bring a lot of interest from like mixing and just working with sound in this other way, which somehow simultaneously feels more abstracted, because it's perhaps you're not directly producing sound from an instrument, but also more physical and material, because you're treating sound much more like a physical thing, and you're sculpting it. So I've tried to bring that into my work as a pianist. And then as a composer, it's just really helpful, because it means you've heard, you hear with more detail, and then with more detail, then you can emerge from that, hopefully with a more specific point of view sonically. I hesitate to make generalizations about audiences, certainly based on like nationality. I think the most visible thing is that certain traditions are just a little different. I mean, in the US, which is where I grew up, people stand up more, and audiences differ so much from night to night. What I will definitely say with some confidence is that in some of the orchestras I've worked with in Europe who have a little bit more infrastructure at the level of funding, sometimes the programming is a little bit more daring. I think it's the benefit of being able to program without feeling like you have to kowtow to a status quo in your audience, which is sometimes what I've encountered in the US. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. I mean, beyond that, I think that it's hyper personal. Every concert is establishing a new relationship with an audience, and so it doesn't necessarily boil down to geography. I think I'm a little skeptical about social media's ability to necessarily get new audience. Partially because I actually think that I'm a little more optimistic than a lot of people seem to be about the younger audiences and younger people in the music world. I see tons of young people in the music world. I mean, I know that I'm around them, and I am a young person myself, and so I know those people because we're all doing the thing and we're all working together. There's absolutely a need to foster new audiences, but more because it's a responsibility. You know, this is what we love music, we love making music, and so we should be challenging ourselves to think of how do you make music in ways that speak to the time that you're living in. But I don't think that we should be thinking about getting younger audiences just because we need younger. I don't know, that doesn't quite feel honest to me. We should have new audiences because hopefully what we're doing has some meaning and urgency, but no one's entitled to an audience, just like no audience member is entitled to know every single detail that's happening on stage. My approach to social media is very simple. I grew up with social media and especially stuff like Instagram and Twitter, and I grew up as a Tumblr kid too, and for me, they're all expressive tools. For me, it's just about sharing a part of you in an expressive way and communicating a side of you that you want to share with people. That's all it really is for me. It's not, I don't think about it too much in the broader sense of reaching people. So all I'm really doing is just expressing myself, I think.